Hi everyone, I hope you're all very well. It's Bernard here and welcome to my Citizen channel, and today we have a City Past. So obviously this is a magazine feature and a Moments in Time. So it's a Moments in Time, but it's more concentrating on a certain player. And we have a Welsh striker we're going to talk about today, and we're going back to 1993. So if you're as old as me, you'll probably remember those days wonderfully, and we'll touch upon certain things that were happening at the time as we go through today's moment in time with a Welsh player. And on the 8th of December 1993, this guy on a Wednesday evening, 7:45 p.m. at Main Road, I was there at his debut game, his full debut, because he'd been sort of on the sort of teetering. He'd been a sub a few times. So we actually saw on the 8th of December 1993 the first full debut of 22-year-old under-21 Welsh international, Mr. Carl Griffiths, and that's who we're going to look at today. Please, if you're new to the channel, press the subscribe button, press the notifications so you know when these vlogs are coming out. That'd be absolutely fantastic. And please, thumbs up are fantastic. And get us a thumbs up, that'd be great. I mean, it's love to get comments, I love to get the views, but it's nice to get a thumbs up, know you're out there. And I enjoy doing these, but it's nice to know that you're out there watching it and enjoying these little vlogs we do. Right, please, all comments are welcome. Any constructive comments. I mean, I do have a guy out there who always, as soon as I produce a city vlog, he puts the thumbs down as I'm recording this. So hopefully by the time you watch this in a few weeks hence, because I've recorded this a little bit earlier, he perhaps he's got a bit fed up and he's disappeared. But it wouldn't surprise me if he's still there. So all the best to you, mate. Anyway, whoever you are. Yeah. So here we go. Despite a continuing boardroom battle, a manager in Brian Horton, who was a little bit unsure of his future after the Swales lackey John Maddock had resigned as general manager at this point in time. Just after about 3 months, it was of course Maddock who appointed Brian Horton in the first place. So he was a little bit nervous at the time, I must admit. On the pitch, we were still attempting to bring in new fresh faces. But they must have thought themselves, these new guys, that they were entering sort of a version of Billy Smart's Big Top Circus. But they still came. Perhaps the money was good, I'm not too sure. They still came. We were still a big club, weren't we, at the end of the day, no matter what anyone likes to say about us. And so it was that Mr. Carl Griffiths, born 16th of July 1971, joined the club at the end of October 1993. And he was another on this list of where he had previously scored against City that somehow ended up playing for City. So that seems to be the main criteria in those days for anyone who scored against City for another team actually ended up joining City at some stage in the future. And he was in that club. He actually scored against City for Shrewsbury Town. So there you go. Paul Hinds reports in the Manchester Evening News about the blue swoop. And it reads, Brian Horton today swooped to land Shrewsbury Town's Welsh under-21 striker Carl Griffiths. The Manchester City boss has agreed on a fee of $450,000 for the Welsh pool-born raider, who is regarded as one of the hottest properties outside of the top flight. Griffiths became the target for a host of leading clubs last season when he scored 31 goals in 42 appearances and has maintained that blistering ratio with 7 goals already in the current campaign. Would it continue, perhaps? I wanted to sign Carl while I was at Oxford, but I didn't have the cash, says Horton. I know less cash than us. I know a lot of clubs have been looking at him, but thankfully I've got him first. He's only 22, so apart from strengthening the senior squad, I've made this signing with the future in mind because Carl's best years are yet to come. His scoring record at Shrewsbury has been excellent, and coming to Manchester City is a big step up. Griffiths is Horton's second signing since taking over at Main Road from Peter Reid just 9 weeks ago. Yeah, so it was early days of the Horton regime. His first dip into the transfer market was a 1.6 million acquisition of defender Alan Kernaghan. So there you go. So he brought in Mr. Griffiths, obviously early in his reign, and this is where the Maddock thing obviously was must have been a little bit worrying for him, because obviously it was he was sort of thinking his position was in jeopardy, wasn't it? He was soon used, as you say from this. Now you're going to find out he was soon used. He was subbing a West Ham defeat, a 3-1 defeat at West Ham on November the 1st, so it wasn't long after he joined. And he did get on the pitch and actually won a penalty, so he showed his his lethalness, if you like, in the penalty box. And he won a penalty for Curl to grab a late consolation goal for City. So, not a total disaster, although he was only rated 5 in the form guide in the Manchester Evening News. A bit cruel, I thought. Perhaps that's because he came on as a sub. He wasn't on long, obviously, but a bit of a cruel score considering he earned us a penalty. During November, carrying on, he was an unused sub in the derby at Main Road. We've talked about that on other vlogs. A 3-2 loss to United, but he did manage to get on in the next 2 away games versus Norwich and Chelsea. But again, he started both on the pitch. Against Norwich on the 20th of November, he actually had the ball in the net for what should have been a late winner. But for an error, there was an error by a referee, an error against City. I've never heard of these such things. And Mr. Hackett, who, if you watch my vlogs, I do a regular on the City Present vlogs, a Keith Hackett, you are the ref thing. Mr. Hackett, yes, himself denied us a late goal. And Paul Hince, again, we'll go back to Mr. Hince, described the incident for the Manchester Evening News under the heading "A Golden Blunder." I mean, he was always good for a. Are they called puns or whatever? That Mr. Hints, anyway. Reading from that article, despite those missed chances, he's talking about the game. The Blues would still have come back from Norfolk with all 3 points, but for an amazing blunder in the dying minutes from referee Keith Hackett. The Sheffield official obviously felt that City substitute Carl Griffiths had kicked the ball out of Gunn's hands before rolling his shot into an empty net. Were you there that night? However, television replays of the incident clearly showed that the Welshman had beaten Gunn in the chase for the loose ball and had scored a perfectly legitimate goal. Horton insists that he won't hold that honest mistake against Hackett. Well, I would. No, I haven't, have I? Because I allow him. You are the ref now. So, but when you are looking for your first Premiership victory since September the 25th, that's the dire straits we were in. He must be galling to be denied a badly needed victory by a referee's blunder. Yeah, so he had the ball in the net. So there again, more hints of his lethalness in the penalty box. At least this time he gave Carl a 6 on the form guide for his efforts in that game. So it was improved, wasn't he, from 5 till 6. He was less effective in his brief appearance at Chelsea. But by November the 27th, home game was Sheffield Wednesday. There was an interesting piece, actually, in the Sidelines article of the match programme, and it led with Bonds backing Carl to deliver, and he made interesting comparisons with the John Bond and a Dean Saunders comparison as well. So I'm just writing from the article in this programme. City new boy Carl Griffiths was christened Dino by his Main Road teammates within 20 minutes of being introduced to them, following his £450,000 move from Shrewsbury Town. Dino? The nickname for the 22-year-old striker is a reference to Carl's fellow Welshman Dean Saunders of Aston Villa and is a measure of the immediate respect City's senior squad hold for the way Griffiths took the ball in the net during training in his new surroundings. So he did have that sort of sniffer goal poaching sort of thing, didn't he? One of Griffiths' former managers at Gay Meadow was ex-City boss John Bond, and the man who took the Blues to the 81 FA Cup final reckons Brian Horton's capture is a better goal scorer than Dean Saunders. And that is some testimony to Carl, considering clubs have paid a staggering total of £6.8 million for Saunders' talent, including a one-time British record fee of £2.8 million shelled out by Liverpool in July 1991. Carl's biggest quality, Bond went on, is that he's an out-and-out goal scorer. Yes, in terms of putting the ball in the back of the net, he's a better goal scorer than Dean. He's lethal in the penalty area. Give him the sight of goal and he'll have a go. He sniffs out chances the way Alan Clark, now the old original sniffer, used to do for Leeds United and England in the 70s. He doesn't get too involved in the build-up, but give the ball him in the danger zone and he's very, very dangerous. Carl will get you goals from all over the place. He'll nod them in at the near and far posts, tap-ins from close range, shots from the edge of the area. Carl can put them in from anywhere in the box. I mean, we've got a little gem here, haven't we? In his first game for City, when he came as substitute against West Ham, he showed his nose for a chance straight away. And he does carry on, and John Bond goes to talk about Dean Saunders, who obviously wasn't the easiest to work with, apparently. So obviously Mr. Saunders didn't quite get on with John Bond, and he's made these comparisons, but he did have a bit of a set to with Dean Saunders. And John Bond did say he used to say to Carl Griffiths about tell him about Dean when he was at Shrewsbury and the potential he had and the trouble he was having with Dean Saunders. And he went on to say that Carl had scored a couple of goals against Leeds in the second division in the 1988, just after his league debut when he was only 17. He then scored 2 against City at Main Road. There you go, there we go. That's why we signed him, because he scored a couple against us once. And everyone was talking about this new young sensation. It was probably the worst thing, Bond went on to say, that could have happened to Carl. It turned his head a bit. They were talking of him as a £1 million player. Understandably, someone at that age couldn't handle it properly, and the experience set him back. I had many confrontations with Carl at Shrewsbury, in the same way I had with Dean Saunders at Swansea. There were many occasions when I could have done with Carl what I did with Dean and give him a free transfer. My first 2 seasons with him at Gay Meadow were a bit of a nightmare, but I finally managed to get through to him. All credit to Carl. It took a lot of talking from myself and the staff at Shrewsbury and a lot of listening from Carl, but finally it came right and all clicked into place. Last season he was excellent for me. Again, he's talking about Carl at Shrewsbury. He scored 31 goals and I appreciated what he did. I'd love him to do well at City. I hope that in 2 or 3 years he'll be able to say thank you to me if he accepts that he's going to have to work even harder now that he's in the Premiership. Then there is no doubt he will be some player. So really good words from John Bond about Carl. So it did look as though we're still waiting for his debut. We still did look as though we got a little gem there, didn't it? Obviously, but there was a little hint of troubles, perhaps personality, perhaps his character-wise. And he didn't feature, fortunately. Obviously, that article, he actually didn't feature in the squad for that game. Fortunately, he's probably fortunate, Carl, because it was a 3-1 defeat. Again, not not the greatest, because the fans were in arms. There was demonstrations after the game outside Main Road, etc., etc. And again, we played a Coca-Cola Cup 4th round game against Nottingham Forest at the City Ground quite soon after. Again, he didn't feature, where we actually earned a replay and a 0-0 draw. But off the pitch, these demonstrations and things were happening, weren't they? Swales was finally, seemingly, on the brink of leaving altogether. So it wasn't all bad news, was it, at that time? I mean, it seemed to be drawn to some sort of conclusion. By the 4th of December, struggling City visited second place Leeds. Yeah, Leeds were high flying, and though deserved of a point, they actually lost it 3-2. But there's a great image there of Carl with all blood. Bloody Griffiths had come off the bench again to replace Fitzroy Simpson, as another one that was rated at the time and thought to be the next hero. You know, Fitzroy Simpson, and his first goal for the club rated him an 8 out of 10. So he actually scored against Leeds and got an 8 out of 10 for his performance, and indeed earned the City Man of the Match award as well for that game. So it's not going to be long, is it, before he gets his full debut? But yes, there you go. So on the 8th of December 1993, Griffiths was finally given his full league debut, and in fact scored the only goal in a 1-0 victory over Everton. And again, he was given an 8 out of 10 performance rating. He was, unfortunately, carried off injured in that game, but he wasn't too serious, and he was back for the next game. He did feature then regularly till early February. Added another couple of goals. He wasn't prolific, but he did add another couple of goals, including one in a 2-1 defeat at Anfield. I mean, there's not many City players score at Anfield, is there? But Richard Donlan, for the king of the Kippax, yeah, we always go back to there, don't we? Issue 39, what are we up to now? It's 300 odd, isn't it? 300. Summed it up in his review of his class of 1993-94 review. He says of Carl Griffiths, aged 23, scored 4 league goals in only 11 league games following his signing from Shrewsbury. He joined the injury list shortly after, scoring the winner in his full debut against Everton at Main Road, and he was out for a few games. Well, he wasn't. He was out for a few games a little bit after that. It wasn't after the Everton game. He'd already scored at Ellen Road and looked a good buy, but despite scoring at Anfield after Christmas, he quickly faded again. Will he make the grade or not? So there was certainly doubts about him, even from the fans' point of view, to what had happened and what he was doing. So obviously, all wasn't well, was it? After a promising start, you could see there was a few cracks were appearing yet again. And the 1994-95 season was a bit of a non-starter. He was there on the books. He made just 3 competitive sub-appearances all season, and his only competitive games were for the reserves. Well, he did score goals again, but obviously something wasn't right, was it? And by 1995, 1996, well, pre-season, he did play again, and Mr. Ball was there, wasn't he? Alan Ball had joined by then. Horton had gone. So obviously he did play in some of the early friendlies, and actually did score again in the friendlies pre-season, but obviously Mr. Ball didn't quite fancy him, and he wanted to get rid. And in fact, he was going to be used, and it was again looking back at Paul Hint with an article in a move for Kit Symons. Just looking at his article by Paul Hint. Ball swoop for Symons. Manchester City manager Alan Ball has made a double swoop to strengthen his defence in readiness for the new season. The Blues boss has made a cash plus players offer for Portsmouth Welsh international Kit Symons, and he's also poised to sign an unnamed £1 million rated fullback with a proven Premiership pedigree. Ball has offered Pompey $800,000 in cash for 24-year-old Symons, plus midfielder Fitzroy Simpson and striker Carl Griffiths, who cost the Blues a combined total of $600,000 and $850,000 when they were signed from Swindon and Shrewsbury Town, respectively. So he's going to be a make weight, wasn't he, in the deal for Kit Symons? And as you probably know, the Kit Symons deal went through, and yes, Mr. Griffiths went the other way, so that was the end of Carl Griffiths' brief career and appearances at City. So after just 1.5 seasons, just 18 appearances in 1.5 seasons, 7 as sub, and he scored 4 goals, and as mentioned before, in the first 11 games he featured in. So he did start off really well. So he moved on to Portsmouth. He only made 14 appearances for Portsmouth before moving on again. And then he did have another purple patch scoring-wise, with 2 separate spells at Leyton Orient, who were then in Division 3. So again, that was perhaps his level, wasn't it? So between 97 and 99, he made 65 appearances with 29 goals. And then he went back in 99 to 2001 and made 48 appearances with 18 goals. In fact, in the club's vote for cult heroes, he received a healthy 9% of the vote as a Leyton Orient cult hero. I think he was 3rd or 4th in the list. So there you go, and he was voted into their all-time best 11. So he did go on to, all right, at a lower level, but all respect to him, he did go on to get some further plaudits anyway, which he didn't quite do at City. He actually went on playing non-league football to the age of 39, yes, and still scored goals even at that age. He was still putting them in the net. So yeah, Griffiths. So somebody really, Carl was another of those players that had a level, wasn't it? And he was unlucky enough to join City at another time of turmoil, wasn't it? I mean, we did have a few, and we still have a few, and on and off over the years. And City were trying to find, weren't we? We were trying to find and take a chance on good players on the cheap through necessity. Obviously, we had to try and find that little gem, didn't we? So good players like Griffiths, who could do a job at a lower level, were thrown more or less to the lions, weren't they? In the Premiership, playing for City in the Premiership, a struggling City in the Premiership, and sadly, most like Griffiths sunk rather than swam. As hinted at by John Bond in his article, perhaps there was a character flaw, perhaps it wasn't quite right. There's no doubt he could score goals, but he did suffer from regular injuries as well, which hindered his progress throughout his career. And at City, especially during that second season, he never really got any sort of run at all, so that was his problem. So yeah, that was Mr. Carl Griffiths. I mean, have you any memories of him? Let me know in the comments what you remember of Carl Griffiths. But he did have that instinct, didn't he? Which not many players have of scoring. But obviously there were other problems away from that, wasn't there? Was his total link with the team, perhaps character traits, etc., that probably held him back. And as I said, he probably wasn't a Premiership level player, no doubt. And as I said, he was unlucky that obviously he was actually flung in at the deep end as far as coming to City is concerned. But I've watched him a few times, obviously during that period. And of those 18 games, I probably would have watched most of them. And I think he was a wholehearted player. Didn't quite work out for him, but that's a great shame. But hope you enjoyed that, and thanks for joining me for this moment in time on Carl Griffiths, who made his full debut for our wonderful team on the 8th of December 1993 at Main Road, and he scored. There's not, you can sort of count perhaps on a few hands how many players score on the debut, but how many score the only goal on a debut and a victory. So he had that honour and privilege. I had the privilege of watching it, and I hope hopefully most of you may have watched that as well that are watching this. So a very welcome 1-0 victory at the time, because we weren't doing very, very well, were we, under Mr. Brian Horton, before he started to turn it around a little bit. Anyway, thanks for joining me for this. Please check my links on screen now. If you follow and friend me on Facebook and Twitter, I do check every couple of days and follow and friend you back. If you can get over to my website, my little day job, moviegamenostalgia.com, for old rare DVD titles, movie titles, posters from the 1990s and 2000s, some board games on there as well. Be very, very much appreciated. And of course, if you look at my playlist, you can see I do lots of film reviews, TV drama reviews, film quizzes, etc. So if you enjoy that as well, please check that out. Or if you know someone who might be interested, please point them in my direction. That would be absolutely wonderful. All right, thanks very much. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed that. Let me know in the comments what you think. And yeah, I'm not too sure what he's up to at the moment. He's still knocking around as I'm recording this. He's certainly not playing, although he did play to 39, so all credit to him. And, when you think of players like, say, Stanley Matthews, played to the age 49 in the old days, didn't he? But 39 was a good ride back, certainly for a striker. I know keepers can play for quite a while. So, yeah, I'm not 100% sure what he's up to at the moment. But, yeah, good memories of Carl Griffiths. Anyway, please, what are you going to do with the rest of the day? Have a great one. Look after yourselves, look after your friends, look after your families. More importantly, let's all look after each other. Until we meet again on the Citizen channel on a city past or a city present, please take care of yourself and stay safe, please. Bird saying goodbye for now. Bye-bye.